Cheryl, you're going to hear some great things about a great person.
I'm so pleased you're all here tonight and pleased to be able to have chaired the nominating committee and be able to present this award. I moved here in 2007 in August, and in September started going to the Racial Justice Series that the Peace Center put on, because I wanted to learn more about Richmond and try to understand. And from the first time I went to that session, throughout the last 6 years, I hear over and over again, do you know Reverend Ben Campbell? Do you know Ben Campbell? Do you know him? Have you met him? You should meet him. You haven't met him? He's the person you should meet. He knows everything. He is everything. He does everything. And so he's been like this kind of myth for me. So at the time we looked at the nominations, I of course hadn't met him. And so I thought, this is my chance. This is my opportunity. And so I was so pleased that the committee selected Reverend Campbell. You have a little blurb here that tells you something about him on your table. He's been an eloquent voice for social justice in the city. He's a driving force behind the founding of Richmond Hill, and I believe we have representatives, I know we have representatives, and helped to establish Richmond Slave Trail. He serves as trustee of the Richmond Public Schools Education Foundation and is a board member of Communities and Schools of Richmond. He also helped to found the MICA Initiative, Richmond's most extensive tutoring and mentoring program with nearly 130 faith communities that are involved in this, supporting 26 Richmond elementary schools. In 2011, his book, Richmond's Unhealed History, came out, and there are some copies of this that you may want to purchase. We hope it's a wonderful book. If you know Richmond, you'll know more about Richmond from this book. Even people who've been here all their lives, whose families have been here all their lives, tell me that they learned many new things that they didn't know from this book. Recently, Reverend Campbell launched the RVA Rapid Transit, a grassroots effort to expand public transit and make suburban jobs accessible to Richmond residents. I was recently part of a group who we have made a series of 4 videotapes about different aspects of Richmond to try to bring attention to the issues of a landlocked city and the lack of metropolitan area collaboration, or the lack of enough metropolitan area collaboration. And one of the most telling areas is in transportation. That particular video borrows very much from Reverend Campbell's work, but also gives a kind of idea of why these issues are so important to social justice. If you want to help with that, and you'll probably get another plug, but there are some cards you can sign up for to be part of that initiative. I would like to welcome Reverend Campbell here to the front, where I think we were going to give him an award, which I think Adria has, so it might not be here because she nobody tells me anything. So this is our Peace Award, made by a member of the Peace community to honor your work and the work for social justice and peace that you've done for all of your life, and that we are happy that you're going to continue to do. Thank you.
They told me I could talk to you. Do I get to talk?
Yes.
Okay. My hip feels like it's out of joint today. I'm not sure what's going on, and the doctor wasn't either, but so if I move around strangely, you'll know what's happening. Part of it was I was trying to practice my John Wayne draw from Peacemaker. So he said, that's not, my twin brother did not see why I was Peacemaker of the Year, I will tell you that. Another friend of mine this morning said, "You've been raising hell for 30 years, and I have no idea why they did it." Well, I want to thank you with Richmond Peace Education Center for honoring me. And I can honestly say I've never seen myself as a peacemaker, and I haven't. And it's challenging to me that other people see me that way. So that's an interesting and challenging thought. And I'm glad someone's punctuating this with music, because... Is it you, Bennett? No. Playing your own recording? All right. So, I'd like to say this. I believe in peace. I actually do. But for me, it's been what Christians call the peace that passes understanding, or what you call inner peace. A certainty that there is something right and true, that God is there, that I'm loved, that we're called, that all of us are in some way really cared for, and that we can, in fact, live in hope, that we need not be ashamed, that all of us are forgiven, and that you, each of you, is beautiful. Peace of this sort I have really known, and I know more often every day. And the reason I know it, and I know it so powerfully, is that it's been a gift to me in some of the worst times of my life, when things weren't right, and even now. So it's not logical, this peace. It makes no sense. It's a gift. And I also believe that that peace is a foretaste of what's intended for all of humanity. It is the thing to which we work when truth and justice rule, when the lion shall lie down with the lamb, and men shall beat their swords into plowshares, and we will not make war any more. But for the time being, peace is a foretaste, an achievement, a desire, a motivation, a hope, a vision, a spirit that carries us and tells us the truth and gives us courage. And above all, I think it leads us to pay a price. There is, in fact, a price for peace. Raise your hand if you don't think there's a price for peace. Raise your hand if you're not listening. And just so I don't deal in abstractions and we talk about what we really need to talk about tonight, there is a price for peace in metropolitan Richmond, here. There's a price for bogus peace, and there's a price for real peace. And I'm really anxious that we should know the difference between them. Back at the time of Jeremiah, the Hebrew prophet, he was not a bullfrog. If you know who Jeremiah was. Back at the time of Jeremiah, the Hebrew prophet, that this distinction between real peace and bogus peace was made clearly more than 2,600 years ago. Here's the way Jeremiah said it about Jerusalem. Substitute Richmond if you'd like. Metropolitan Richmond or Jerusalem. Take warning, O Jerusalem, or I shall turn from you in disgust and make you a desolation and uninhabited land. To whom shall I speak and give warning, that they may hear? See, their ears are closed, they cannot listen. The word of the Lord is to them an object of scorn. They take no pleasure in it. But I'm full of the wrath of the Lord. I'm weary of holding it in. Pour it out on the children in the street, and on the gatherings of young men as well. For from the least to the greatest of them, everyone is greedy for unjust gain. And from prophet to priest, everyone deals falsely. They have treated the wound of my people carelessly, saying peace, peace, when there is no peace. What Jeremiah is saying is that you cannot have peace without healing, you cannot have peace without justice, that human respect and proper citizenship are necessary for it. Now, whether you believe that's divine law, or natural law, or just good observation of human behavior, you cannot have peace without justice. And he says that Jerusalem is coming apart at the seams because everybody from entrepreneur to worker to beggar to preacher has given up the quest for justice and gone to seek only his or her own wealth, no matter what that has to do with anybody else. Is there an amen in that? Amen. Amen. Right here in this town, about 238 years ago, Patrick Henry took hold of Jeremiah's words in urging the people to revolution against the British. According to the received written version of his extemporaneous speech on Church Hill, the Hanover County orator said this, and I quote, "It is vain, sir, it is in vain, sir, to extenuate the matter. Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace, but there is no peace. The war has actually begun. Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here idle? Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty, or give me death." Now we can cut right to the problem. Following Patrick Henry's majestic words at St. John's Church, the Virginians did indeed join a revolution to bring freedom to this city and state, but they stopped the revolution in the middle. Right in the middle. The price of freedom for the white Virginians was the enslavement of the black Virginians. The price of freedom for the white Virginians was the enslavement of the black Virginians. We simultaneously established a free republic for half the population and a totalitarian slave state for the other half. 25 years after Patrick Henry, Gabriel and his colleagues were hanged by the same Virginia patriots for believing his words. In the pocket of one of Gabriel's lieutenants was a flag that said, and I quote, "Death or liberty." So in our quest for a peace based on liberty and opportunity in this city, we are the heirs of a most tragic and painful history. Now I can tell you that history back to the year 1500 at the Falls of the James, but it would go on forever and you might not have any reason to buy my book. Which is for sale where, Andrew Terry? Way at the back table. Andrew Terry will stand up so that you can see his face. He will be going to the back if you'd like to buy it. I want you to read it, so please buy it. The problem to which I refer is this. When we speak of the price of peace in metropolitan Richmond, we have to be clear about who's going to pay the price. And what I have to say tonight is this: it's time we paid the price ourselves for this glorious and wondrous achievement and stopped trying to purchase peace by seeing the price onto others. Do not purchase peace by displacing the price onto others, and do not expect someone else to pay the price for your peace. When you purchase peace at the cost of enslaving someone else, you're doing nothing but living a lie. And this lie has been our shame, our difficult journey in metropolitan Richmond from the beginning of this European settlement. And it's not necessary to go through the history anymore tonight, only to suggest that we have a spiritual problem. and it's this problem I wish to address. I believe our spiritual problem is the result of our virtue. We are the victims of the power of our ideals. We have hazarded great things, the greatest perhaps. The idea, the thought that every person would have an equal opportunity, that all human beings are created equal. We've hazarded that as the principle of our city, and we're trapped in the despair and the dysfunction and the disillusionment caused by our own self-betrayal. You see, we claimed here, right in this place, that all human beings were created equal, and that we should build a city, state, and nation on that principle. Right there, even in that language, as you know, we had a big problem because Thomas Jefferson actually said more than he meant. He meant all white men who own property are created equal, but he didn't say that. And with the 18th century meaning of the word men, he said all human beings were created equal. An incredible statement. It went around the world, still going around the world. But in his personal life, of course, he was discriminating pretty desperately between persons by color. So we proclaimed freedom, but we practiced slavery. What happened to Patrick Henry's words? Is life so dear, or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. Now what's clear is that Richmond's collective depression, anybody ever feel like Richmond's a little bit depressed? Thank you. Richmond's collective depression didn't begin with the defeat of the Confederacy and the burning of the city. By the way, we burned the city ourselves, we white folks in Richmond. Some people think it was to get to the liquor warehouse, which also burned, and people were drinking liquor in the streets that night. But we burned it. This is really smart. I have to, this is, Renee, could you come up here and laugh? No, we set fire to the ammunition to stop the Yankees from getting it. That's what we did. Of course, the whole city blew up. But our depression didn't begin with the burning of the city. There's a guy named Frederick Law Olmsted who designed Central Park. And he visited a number of American cities and came twice to Richmond. And in 1860 now, before the Civil War, he wrote a book called Journey in the Back Country. And this is what he wrote about Richmond, 1860. Richmond somewhat surprised me by its substance, show, and gardens. It's a metropolis having some substantial qualities, having a history and something prepared for a future as well. Compared with northern towns of the same population, there's much that's quaint and provincial. Oh, that's my hotel. It's only the mills and warehouses, a few shops, and a few private residences and hotels that show real enterprise or real and permanent wealth, Olmsted said. What a failure there has been in the promises of the past, he wrote. That, at last, is what impresses one most in Richmond. It is plainly the metropolis of Virginia, of a people who have been dragged along in the grand march of the rest of the world, but who have had for a long time, and yet have, a disposition within themselves only to step backward. Harsh. Unfortunately, white Virginians were unable to end the slave system. In fact, the last person who advocated it publicly in Richmond was challenged to a duel and killed in 1848 in Manchester. It took the death of hundreds and thousands of men and the maiming of more than 1 million others. It took the burning of the city and the triumph of a victorious Union Army to end slavery in Virginia. The only time the 13th Amendment was passed in the House of Delegates of the capital of Virginia was under the leadership of Tommy Lee Jones. When Steven Spielberg filmed Lincoln in our state capitol. And it was passed over and over and over and over. But I went in there the other day and I still didn't quite hear the echo of it. Betsy, we got to work on that. Yeah. Again, we proclaimed freedom after the war. That you all know after the war, right? Again, we proclaimed freedom, lionized Washington and Jefferson and Madison and Monroe, and practiced a cynical form of discrimination called racial segregation. The hypocrisy with which we had become accustomed drained our spirit. You know, hypocrisy drains your spirit. Then after the Second World War, the Supreme Court of the United States Congress, again gave us a chance to purify our consciences and live what we believed. They gave us the integration of schools, the integration of public facilities, the Voting Rights Act, fair housing legislation. But our leaders turned down their opportunity. Again, we proclaimed that liberty for some meant oppression for others. Commonwealth of Virginia's entire political apparatus dedicated itself to massive resistance against racial equality in this state. And that fight was not over in the courts, if you think it's over now, was not formally over in the courts until 1977. And by that time, the General Assembly had established permanently a new barrier and set of barriers to our common life and ideals. The rigid division in finance, politics, and educational services of the 4 jurisdictions which actually make up the city of Richmond, Richmond, Henrico, Hanover, and Chesterfield. We are one city, but we are at war with one another today. Each of us is desperately trying to purchase liberty at the cost of the other's bondage. Tell the truth. No matter what peace may occur on the surface, we have structured ourselves as enemies, stealing businesses, fighting over rich people, displacing poor people, and legislating constantly against one another. And it is a sad business. And the saddest thing is, we don't believe we can do anything about it. Now that's our spiritual sickness. We are victims of our own despair, sickened by our structured hypocrisy, refugees from the cathedrals of liberty. We sprawl across the landscape, dissipating what remains of our commonwealth, increasingly afraid of one another. If this were 1775, and we felt as helpless before our fate as we do today, it wouldn't matter what Patrick Henry said, we would still be a British colony. It's past time to right ourselves. It is actually a new day. And we can tell the truth. That's one thing we can do. No people can live without ideals. No people can live without ideals. And we cannot live effective and joyful lives without our purpose and without the hope of common victory. Common victory. That's not victory pushing somebody else down. It's the hope of common victory. The price of peace in metropolitan Richmond is that we must knit ourselves together. We need one another, of course, for what we can give one another and what we can do today and do together. Today, we are maintaining 8 identical governments for the same number of people, for which Fairfax County has 1 government. It costs twice as many dollars per person to do that. It also costs the state nearly twice as much to keep metropolitan Richmond going as it does to keep Fairfax County going. Now I want you to think about that and figure out where the votes are and ask yourself how long that's going to keep going on. We can't compete with other cities in our region of America. Y'all know that Charlotte and Richmond were the same size in 1960, though, right? Ask yourself why that happened. We can't compete with other cities in our region because we are so divided, and we have a reputation all over for that, and that we're squandering our wealth, which I just gave you an indication of, and because we have no public transportation. None in most of our metropolitan city. Everybody knows it, all over the country. We're 92nd among the nation's 100 largest cities in access to jobs by public transportation. Only 25% of our jobs are accessible by public transportation. The minimum cost of a car per year, this is Department of Labor, minimum cost of a car is $3,000 to run it, own it, you know, fix the muffler. The average cost is $7,000 a year. Our lack of transportation absolutely guarantees unemployment. You know, the devil comes to Richmond and says, I want to make those people unemployed. All he's got to do is make sure there's no public transportation. It works. Just as we're guaranteeing educational inequality by concentrating all of our most distressed school children in one system and then underfunding it at the state and local level. So we're guaranteeing ourselves unemployment by our failure to provide public transportation. Our ideals are so out of touch with our reality. Do we have any ideals left? It's no wonder we feel like it's impossible to be constructive. The price of peace in metropolitan Richmond is that we must knit ourselves together, whatever the cost. That we must find that hope and knit ourselves together so long as we're not simply making others pay it one more time. The depth of our despair is the measure of our potential victory. It's a moral and spiritual opportunity. We have to do something right. And we have to show ourselves that we can, in fact, do something right ourselves. Not because the Yankees made us do it. All right, how many of y'all are Yankees? Raise your hand. Okay, not because y'all made us do it. Not because the black people made it. How many of y'all are black people? Not because the black people made us do it. Not because the white people made us do it. How many of y'all are white people? Come on, what's in the hands? Don't be ashamed, it's all right. Not because the county or the city people made us do it, but because it's right. Because we're Virginians. I'm proud to be a Virginian. I don't know why, but I am. Because we believe in our ideals, no matter how tarnished. Because we know we need one another and it's not just rhetoric. And because our God and the true gods of all the nations demand it. Each of us has his or her own vocation in this business of knitting us together. But I want to close tonight by suggesting at least one thing which we may have in common. So let's build a public transportation system for metropolitan Richmond. You knew I was going to get here. Now, the Brookings Institution gave us the data. Metropolitan Richmond is in the bottom 10% of the nation's cities in public transportation. That's number 92 out of 100. We don't have a system. That's why we're in the bottom. I just don't know who could be worse, honestly. They make people get off the bus or something. Our system runs only in the central jurisdiction. It's the thing that Virginia calls the city. And there are a few ineffective lines in Henrico. The Richmond Regional Planning District Commission did data specifically for Richmond, and here's what they found. If we were to, this is just a brilliant thought now. If we were to put bus rapid transit on the 4 major roads in metropolitan Richmond, we would double the number of jobs that were accessible. 50%. On Route 1, Route 250, Route 60, Route 360. We would have 50% of our jobs accessible. Bus rapid transit is a system that speeds up transportation, and they use these big kind of vehicles that have the accordion in the middle. You know that they're fun. If you stand on the circle, you can. It's really fun. It's like being on a merry-go-round going to work. And they're fast, and they run every 10 or 15 minutes, all day long, like 20 hours a day. It's like a subway system on the surface. And all the other connections can go right into them. If we do the simple connections to the BRT lines, like Parham Road for 4.5 miles to J. Sargent Reynolds, and the apartments and the hospitals and the Enrico Government Center, and 4 miles, that thing. We do those simple connections, we get 80% of our jobs accessible. And we're in the top 10 cities in the country, just like that. We can pay for it with 1/2 cent on the sales tax for the 4 jurisdictions. That's a right that the General Assembly just gave to Tidewater and to Northern Virginia, but our guys couldn't even get together enough to take money down. Can you believe it? So 80% of our jobs will be accessible, not to mention recreation, education, retail, and tourism, just like that. And all we have to do is agree that we're going to do it. Why not? Ask yourself, why not? Ask yourself, why can't it happen? And you'll identify the spiritual battle we're in. We have a sense of impossibility which anywhere else would not be rational. If we were a single city, we'd have done this 20 years ago. If we were in touch with our own ideals, there would be no question. If we looked at our competitive economic situation, we'd do it right away. If we calculated what is needed for our older citizens throughout the suburbs and cities who need public transportation, we wouldn't wait. If we saw what is needed for placement of jobs and housing and the need for cost savings, we'd hurry to do it. And if we were proud of ourselves and thought that we were as good as Denver or Charlotte, we wouldn't hesitate. And what if we were able to do this one thing? A major common activity that affects our common life and knits us together, literally, without requiring the merging of our jurisdictions. What if we were able to do one significant thing together? I'm not talking about a ballpark. I'm talking about employed citizens, people whose lives are being saved. What if we were able to do one intelligent thing together? One thing right, because we actually believed in it. There's a thought. Because it made sense. My. Because it was prophetic. Because it went in the right direction. And then you could come home again. And because we were tired of purchasing our own peace at the cost of others' oppression. Then who knows? Who knows what we might be able to do next? It is wrong to shout peace, peace, when there is no peace. He said, the war has actually begun. Our brethren are already in the field. Why are we standing here idle? Is life so dear or peace so sweet to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? And who is it who is in chains? Is it not we ourselves, enchained by our own shame at failing our own promise? Now, I don't know about you, but I'm ready to be friends with anybody who wants to be free, no matter what jurisdiction they live in. And I believe if we encourage one another, and if we don't give up, and if we listen to the Spirit, and if we base our confidence on the peace that God gives, the peace that is in our hearts, I believe there are enough of us to make the difference that the best of our ancestors couldn't do, but have been praying for, that we finally might be able to make. To begin actually, for the first time, to knit ourselves together as one community, one metropolitan city, one people, and it's no joke. Our very life, our purpose, our being, and the lives, purpose, and being of our children and of our brothers and sisters throughout this metropolitan area depend on this. The price of peace in metropolitan Richmond today is to renounce our history of failure and selling one another and deciding to have a complete, comprehensive, and effective public transportation system. That's all, nothing more, and nothing less. That's it. And by the way, the price of peace is $79 million a year in operating funds, which is the exact amount that a half cent on the sales tax in Richmond, Henrico, Chesterfield, and Hanover produces. Now, if you want to get your name on the email list for REV Transit, we will not spam you. I promise. But we will let you know what's going on. And let me say this. It's a free movement. Nobody's organizing it. We're trying to coordinate it. So if you would like to do something, start a group, get together a bunch of folks from different jurisdictions and say, how come we can drive anywhere but we can't take